Everyone talks about becoming a millionaire, but nobody talks about what happens when you finally hit your first quarter million, that $250,000 mark. It's not enough to retire, but it's also not nothing. It's a strange, quiet milestone, one that changes how you see money, risk, and even yourself. Because when you reach it, something inside you shifts, and it's not what you expect. Meet John. He's been investing for years. Slowly, consistently, nothing flashy. Every month, $800 into ETFs, a few side hustles, reinvested gains. He wasn't chasing the next big crypto win or meme stock spike. He was just trying to build something steady, something real. He never felt rich. He still drove the same old car, brought lunch from home, and thought twice before buying a coffee out. To most people, he looked average. But behind the scenes, something was quietly compounding. Discipline, patience, and time. Then one ordinary afternoon, he logs into his portfolio, and there it is, and the number he's never seen before, $253,187. For a moment, it doesn't feel real. He stares at the screen, half expecting it to be an error. But it's not. It's the result of every small, boring decision he made for the last few years. He remembers the nights he stayed home instead of going out, the months when the market dropped and he kept buying anyway. He remembers when he had less than $1,000 in savings, when every unexpected bill felt like a crisis. Now he could cover 6 months of expenses, maybe even a full year, without panic. For the first time, life feels quiet, stable, but that silence brings a new kind of thought. Not excitement, not relief, a question. What now? The psychological shift. At $250,000, your relationship with money changes. You stop chasing survival and start chasing stability. The anxiety fades, but the ambition doesn't. For years, every dollar John saved felt like a step away from danger. Now, each one feels like something to defend. He checks his portfolio not out of excitement, but caution. He's no longer asking, how can I make more? He's asking, how do I not lose what I've built? And that's the paradox of progress. When you finally have enough to feel safe, you start to fear losing that safety more than anything else. Because for the first time, you understand, losing money hurts more than gaining it ever feels good. It's called loss aversion, and it's one of the strongest forces in behavioral finance. It's what makes new investors panic sell and experienced ones hold cash too long, waiting for a perfect moment that never comes. John begins to see money differently, not as points in a game, but as a system. He starts reading about taxes, asset allocation, diversification. He watches less TikTok advice and more annual shareholder letters. He's not gambling anymore. He's managing. He's learning to think like a steward, not a speculator. And that's the first real step toward wealth maturity, the point where emotion starts giving way to discipline. The financial reality. But let's be clear, $250,000 isn't financial freedom. At a 4% withdrawal rate, that's only $10,000 a year. It's not enough to quit your job, but it's enough to give you options. And options are the real currency of freedom. It's the safety net that lets you make smarter, bolder decisions. The kind you couldn't risk when you were living paycheck to paycheck. John could take a career risk, start a business, move to a new city, negotiate a raise without fear of being fired, because now he has what psychologists call a freedom buffer. Money that buys him time, not luxury, and that's far more powerful than any car or gadget. See, financial freedom doesn't start when you can buy anything you want. It starts when you can say no to the things you don't want. No to toxic workplaces, no to panic decisions, no to living for the next payday. That's the quiet power of $250,000. It's not about escaping work, it's about regaining control. And with that control comes a shift. When you hit $250,000, your mindset moves from, how do I earn more, to how do I make this work for me? You stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like a strategist. You begin to see your money as employees. Each dollar working, earning, compounding on its own. You think in percentages, not paychecks. In assets, not income. In compounding, not consumption. And that's when the game of wealth truly begins. The emotional paradox. But there is also a hidden downside. When you've built something meaningful, you become afraid to lose it. That fear doesn't arrive suddenly. It creeps in quietly. At first, it looks like responsibility. Then it turns into obsession. John starts checking his portfolio every morning. A 0.5% dip ruins his mood. A green day feels like relief, but only for a few hours. He scrolls through financial news, not to learn, but to reassure himself that everything's fine. He's not struggling financially, he's struggling mentally. Because the truth is, fear doesn't disappear when you make money. It just changes shape. It used to be fear of not having enough. Now it's fear of losing what you've built. And that's when John finally realizes wealth isn't a number. It's a mindset. It's how you feel about your money when you wake up in the morning. If you don't fix your psychology, you'll just carry the same anxiety with more zeros attached. You'll build a bigger cage, not a freer life. So John sets a new rule. He'll stop chasing net worth and start chasing peace. He automates his investments, stops refreshing the charts, and puts that energy into things that compound in silence. Skills, relationships, and health. The assets that don't crash, don't fluctuate, and don't depend on a market cycle. Because real wealth isn't measured in what you can buy, it's measured in how calm you can stay when everything else changes. Final insight. Hitting $250,000 isn't the end of the journey. It's the moment you realize you're playing a different game, a quieter, longer, more strategic one. It's no longer about how fast you can double it. It's about how long you can hold it, grow it, and stay calm while doing it. Because real wealth is built in silence. In the mornings you don't spend, in the investments you don't touch, in the discipline that no one sees. At $250,000, you begin to understand that wealth was never about a finish line. It's about staying in the game long enough to let time do its work. It's about patience, it's not perfection, and about learning that peace of mind compounds faster than any stock ever could. Because wealth isn't about money sitting in your account. It's about the freedom to live life on your terms and the discipline to keep it that way. That's the quiet truth of financial growth. You don't really feel rich when you reach $250,000. You feel stable. And from that stability, everything else becomes possible. Your next step. So when you finally hit that $250,000 mark, don't ask, what can I buy? Ask, now, what kind of person do I need to become to manage this? Because the truth is, the hardest part of building wealth isn't making the money. It's learning to think differently once you have it. If you found this video valuable, hit subscribe and stay consistent because your first $250,000 is only the beginning.